Welcome to Mindleapic, your quiet corner for sleepy stories from the past. If this tale helps you unwind tonight, please like the video, subscribe for more calm journeys through history, and drop a comment below sharing your favorite way to drift off. Now, settle in, close your eyes, and let us begin our slow exploration of the most notorious criminals of medieval times. These are tales of outlaws, pirates, and dark figures from a world long gone, told in a gentle whisper to ease you towards sleep. We will take our time, painting each scene with soft details, so your mind can wander peacefully as the words flow on. In the dim light of the 12th and 13th centuries, Europe was a land of kings and knights, but also of shadows where men like Eustace the monk roamed free. Born around 1170 near the port of Boulogne, in what is now France, Eustace came from a family of lords. His real name was Eustace Busquet, son of Baudouin Busquet, a noble who held lands in the county of Boulogne. Imagine a young boy growing up by the sea, where the waves crashed against rocky shores, and ships sailed in and out with tales from distant lands. The air smelled of salt and fish, and the wind carried whispers of adventure. But life was not always calm. Eustace's father was murdered sometime after 1190, a quiet tragedy that lit a fire in the young man's heart. Seeking peace at first, Eustace joined the Benedictine monks at St. Samer Abbey near Calais. There, in stone halls filled with chants and candlelight, he wore simple robes and followed the rules of prayer and silence. The days passed slowly, with bells marking the hours and the scent of incense hanging in the air. But the call of vengeance was stronger than the call to God. Eustace left the monastery, shedding his robes like an old skin, and stepped into a life of rebellion. By 1202, he found work as a steward for Renaud de Damartin, the Count of Boulogne, E.C.N.A. As bailiff, Eustace managed the Count's lands, collecting rents from farmers who tilled the soil under gray skies, and overseeing mills that ground grain into flour. He rode through villages on a steady horse, his cloak flapping in the wind, making sure justice was done, or at least his version of it. But trust broke like a wave on rocks. Around 1204, a quarrel arose. Some said Eustace mishandled money. Others whispered of deeper betrayals. The Count accused him, seized his family lands, and declared him an outlaw. 60. Eustace, now a hunted man, did not run far. In the dead of night, under a moon that cast long shadows over the fields, he returned with fire in his hands. He burned 2 of the Count's mills to the ground, watching the flames dance high, the crackle of wood mixing with the cries of startled birds. The smoke rose thick and black, a signal to all that Eustace would not fade quietly. This act of revenge marked the start of his path as one of the most feared outlaws in medieval France. With no home left, Eustace turned to the sea, where the rules of land meant little. 0. He became a pirate, commanding ships that slipped through the English Channel like ghosts in the fog. Picture his vessel, a sturdy cog with sails billowing white against the gray water, cutting through waves that slapped against the hull. His crew was a ragtag group, sailors with scarred faces, deserters from armies, and men seeking quick coin. They hid in coves along the coast, where cliffs rose steep and green, and caves echoed with the drip of water. From these lairs, Eustace launched raids on merchant ships bound for England or France, laden with wool, wine, and spices from far-off places. His men would row close in small boats, silent as the tide, then board with hooks and swords, the clash of steel ringing over the water. Cargo was seized, barrels of ale rolling on deck, bolts of cloth fluttering like flags of defeat. Villages on the Normandy coast felt his wrath too. In the quiet hours before dawn, his band would land, torches flickering, and take what they needed. Grain from silos, livestock from pens, tools from sheds. Homes sometimes burned, leaving families to huddle in the chill morning air, watching embers glow. King John of England saw use in this rogue during his wars with France, D59 C8E from 1205. To 1212, John hired Eustace, giving him 30 ships to harass. French trade, 7593b. Eustace's base became the island of Sark, a small rock in the channel where wind howled through gorse bushes and seals basked on slippery stones. From there, he struck at supply lines, capturing vessels heavy with arms for French knights or food for their camps. One raid might see his ships disguise as friendly traders, luring a fat merchant cog close with false signals from lanterns. Then grapples flew, ropes creaking as men pulled hulls together, and the fight began. Swords flashing, shouts lost in the spray, spoils filled holds, iron for weapons, silver for pay, silk that felt smooth under calloused hands. Even monasteries were not safe. In one tale, Eustace's men stormed a holy house on the coast, their boots thudding on stone floors, overturning altars for hidden gold. Monks scattered like leaves in autumn, their prayers turning to pleas. But Eustace's heart was his own, not a king's. In 1212, old grudges pulled him back to France. Pinund 62. Renaud de Damartin, now allied with John, had turned the English king against him. Eustace switched sides, his ships turning to prey on English waters instead. He raided Folkestone in Kent, a busy port where fishermen mended nets by lamplight. His crew swarmed the docks at low tide, grabbing barrels of fish, crates of tools, anything of value. The air filled with the smell of tar and salt, mixed with the sharp tang of fear. From Sark and Guernsey, now his again, he demanded tolls from passing boats, like a shadow king of the waves. Fishermen paid in coin or catch, lest their boats vanish into the deep. His band grew, French outlaws joining for the promise of plunder, their laughter rough around campfires on rocky beaches. The year 1215 brought the First Barons' War to England, nobles rising against John's heavy hand. 2-5. Eustace sided with the rebels, seeing chance in chaos. In 1216, he ferried Prince Louis of France across the Channel, ships groaning under the weight of knights in mail, horses stamping below deck. Fay 035. The crossing was tense, sails straining in night winds, dodging English patrols that lit the horizon with torches. Louis aimed for the throne, and Eustace supplied him, raiding ports for food, weapons, even stealing royal ships to swell the fleet. Treason hung heavy, but so did gold. Villages loyal to John burned under his touch, fields trampled, mills ground to silence once more. Tales from the time paint him as a trickster, hiding in forests to ambush foes, disguising as a beggar to steal horses, his laugh low and knowing, yet the sea, like fate, is unkind to the bold. In August 1217, during the Battle of Dover, Eustace carried more aid to Louis A 97b. English ships under Hubert de Burgh met him in the strait, waves churning white. Eustace's flotilla fought fierce, rams splintering wood, arrows whistling overhead. But the English had a cruel trick. pots of lime dust hurled from catapults, blinding French eyes in a stinging cloud. Men clawed at faces, decks slick with blood and vomit. Eustace escaped that day, his ship limping. But on August 24th, in the Battle of Sandwich, Philip d'Aubigny's fleet cornered him. 8b. Surrounded, his vessel rocked in the swell, enemies boarding like ants on a fallen log. Eustace hid in the bilge, water lapping at his knees, the stench of tar and fear thick. Dragged out, he begged with offers of ransom. Gold enough for a lord's life, but those he had robbed for years had no mercy. Hated for burned homes and stolen lives, they chose death. Some say he was beheaded against a trebuchet's side, the blade falling swift under a cloudy sky. FC 58A, his head rolled into the sea, waves claiming the last of the monk. Eustace's story lingers like fog on the water, a reminder of how one man's grudge can ripple across kingdoms. His crimes, piracy that choked trade, raids that left villages empty, betrayals that fed wars, touched thousands in quiet ways. Merchants lost fortunes. Families mourned sons lost at sea. Kings shifted thrones because of his sails. Yet in old tales he is half hero, a clever fox outwitting hounds, his black magic whispers adding mystery. From Toledo's schools, where he learned spells that bent wind to his will, or so the stories say, to his end in chains, Eustace lived fast in a slow world. 6DOF. As his brothers held Sark a bit longer, the channel grew calm, but echoes of his name rode the tides for years. Let us pause here, as the first light of this long night fades. Eustace's tale is but the start. In the parts to come, we will meet more shadows. Gilles de Rais, the knight who turned to night. Vlad the Impaler with his forest of stakes, and others whose deeds chill the blood even in sleep. For now, let these words settle like dust on old books. Breathe deep, feel the weight of your blanket, and drift with the gentle roll of waves that once carried a monk to infamy. Now, to fill the gentle rhythm, let us revisit the coasts where Eustace roamed. The English Channel stretches wide, 30 miles from Dover's white cliffs to Calais' gray towers. In summer, gulls wheel overhead, their cries sharp against blue skies. In winter, storms lash with rain that stings like needles. Villages hug the shore, small huts of thatch and wattle, smoke curling from chimneys where women stirred pots of barley stew. Fishermen mended lines of hemp, knots tight against the pull of cod and herring. Merchants in wool tunics haggled over casks, voices low and steady. But when Eustace came, peace shattered. His ships appeared as dots on the horizon, growing larger, sails patched from stolen cloth. Crews shouted in rough French, accents thick from Boulogne's streets. They dragged nets for loot, not fish, purses of copper, rings of silver, even shoes from the dead. One raid at a Norman town saw them torch a granary, golden wheat spilling like sand, feeding flames that lit the night. Survivors spoke of a man in dark robes, face shadowed, eyes sharp as a hawk's. Was it magic, or just the luck of a bold heart? Tales say he summoned mists to hide his flight, fog rolling and thick as wool, swallowing pursuers whole, deeper into his days with King John. The king, short and fiery, sat in castles like Corfe, plotting against Philip of France. Letters sealed with wax summoned Eustace, promising pardon for past sins. In return, harass the foe. So he did. From Guernsey's green hills, where rabbits hopped in dew-wet grass, his men rode to France. They hit Harfleur, port of tall ships, stealing anchors heavy as dreams. Nights were spent counting coin by firelight, sparks rising like stars fallen low. But John turned sour when Eustace raided English folk too. Outlawed again, he laughed it off, sails turning south. Loyalty was a coat, worn when it fit. In the Baron's revolt, Magna Carta, fresh ink on parchment, Eustace ferried Louis like a ghost across water. The prince, tall and pale, stood at the prow, armor glinting faint. Knights below deck diced bones for luck. Horses nickered soft. Landfall at Stonner. Mud sucking at boots. And the march began. Eustace's ships shadowed the coast, picking off stragglers, their wakes foaming white trails of war. Betrayal suited him. It kept the wind at his back. The battle's end came slow. Dover's strait narrowed like a throat. English hulls blocking the way. Lime flew, white powder burning eyes, men stumbling blind. Eustace's voice cut through, calm orders amid screams. Sandwich followed, no escape. The sea gave him life, then took it back. His death rippled. Treaties signed in halls of stone, islands handed over, brothers fleeing to quiet lives. Medieval seas grew safer. Trade flowed steady once more, but in taverns by the shore, old salts still whisper of the monk, his shadow long on moonlit waves. To ease you further, think of the land he scorched. Boulogne's fields of rye swayed gold in breeze. Mills creaked with wheels turning slow. After the fire, peasants rebuilt with hands calloused from hoe and scythe. Thatch roofs patched against rain. Life returned, stubborn as tide. Eustace's legend grew in songs sung low by bards with lutes strung tight, strings humming tales of tricks and triumphs. One yarn has him as a friar, fooling the count, swapping wine for vinegar in his cups, laughter bubbling like foam on ale. Another, him riding a stolen steed through mist, hounds baying far behind. These stories softened his edge, made him man of the folk, though chronicles call him thief plain. His magic, that adds dream to the dark. In Toledo, under sun hot as forge, he studied grimoires bound in leather, pages yellow with age, words in Latin, twisted tongue, promising power over storm and stone. Back home, he brewed potions in hidden rooms, herbs bubbling in iron pots, smoke curling blue. Did he call winds to fill his sails, or just read currents well? Sailors cared little. Fear made him larger. Storms that sank rivals bore his name, gales his breath. As part one draws to close, let Eustace fade like smoke from a dying fire. His crimes were many. Mills burned twice over. Ships sent to bottom with crews gasping last breaths. Villages stripped bare in winter's bite. Thousands touched by his hand, indirect as rain. Yet he was product of his time. Feudal feuds birthing wolves like him. Rest now on this thought. History is a river, slow and deep, carrying all to sea. In parts ahead, more rivers join. Crimes colder, shadows longer. For tonight, sleep comes easy. Words a blanket, soft and warm. Continuing the gentle flow to fill the night, let us linger on the channel's moods. Days when sun broke gold on crests, fish leaped silver. Nights when stars pricked black velvet. Compasses spun true by lodestone's pull. Eustace knew them all. Helm steady in gales that bent masts like bows. His crew slept in shifts, hammocks swaying, dreams of home or hoard. Meals were salt pork chewed slow, biscuit hard as stone, washed with captured wine tart on tongue. raids planned by lamplight, maps unrolled on barrels, fingers tracing routes in ink faded brown. One calm eve, off Sark's jagged edge, they spied a lone trader, sails limp in doldrums, oars dipped quiet, approaching like mist. The captain hailed in French polite, asking news of ports. Trust given, hooks flew silent. Boarders climbed ropes slick with dew, knives glinting faint. Below, cargo waited. Spices sharp-scented, furs soft as cloud. No blood that night, just a crew bound gentle, set adrift with water and bread. Mercy, rare as calm, bought silence, but mercy waned with time. In war's heat, English villages paid dear. Folkestone's thatch roofs crackled orange, children wide-eyed in arms of kin, livestock lowed in panic, driven to boats bobbing eager. Why? Payback for lost isles, John's men taking Sark by force, brothers fighting yard by yard. Eustace struck back. Heart hard as flint struck to spark. The switch to France was wine turned to water. Bitter, but necessary. Letters from Philip promised land restored, if ships turned true. So they did. Folkestone first victim. Docks alive with morning trade, nets hauled heavy, voices calling bids. Then shouts sharp, sails on horizon, black against dawn. Chaos. Carts overturned, bolts of cloth trampled underfoot. Eustace ashore brief, boots in sand wet, taking ledgers of debt to burn later. Baron's aid was grandest crime. Lewis's crossing. Waves gentle as cradle, but stakes high as gallows. English spies watched shores, beacons ready to blaze. Eustace dodged, hugging fog-shrouded coasts, stars guiding faint, landed soft at night. Knights spilling out like ants from hill, marching inland to clash of steel far off. Supplies followed, raids on Dover's outskirts, wagons creaking full of bread and ale, horses laden with arrows fletched new, battles blurred in memory. Dover's dust cloud lingered in eyes days after. Itch like ghost, sandwich tighter, no room to maneuver, hulls grinding like teeth. Eustace fought deck to deck, sword heavy and arm tired, sweat mixing salt with blood, bilge dark and foul, rats fleeing his tread. Pulled up, cloak torn, face grim. Pleas fell on deaf ears. Men he'd starved spat back. Axe rose, fell clean. Head to sea, body to birds. Aftermath quiet. Treaty halls echoed with terms. Islands ceded. Brothers gone. Channel trade bloomed. Ships safe in numbers. Eustace's name in rolls of rogues. Caution to ambitious. His romance, penned later, spins yarns of forest tricks. Hiding in leaves green. Ambushing with slings and stones. Count fooled to rage red. Robin-like, he steals from rich. Gives wink to poor, though truth harsher. Magic's thread weaves through. Toledo's streets narrow, air thick with spice and chant. Scholars in robes long debated stars' paths, demons' names. Eustace learned quick, books heavy in satchel on ride home. At Abbey first, spells hidden under psalms. Later, on ship, chalk circles on deck wet. Words murmured low to calm storms or curse foes. Crew crossed selves, fearing more than wave. To end part 1. Soft, consider the monk he was. Robes rough wool, tonsure cold on scalp shorn. Prayers at matins, voice blending with brothers. Peace like balm. Vengeance broke it, but echoes remained. Perhaps in garb patched black. Nod to vows broken. His life a bridge from cloister to chaos. medieval man full measure. Sleep now, listener dear. Words done for this hour, but history waits patient. Part 2 brings Gilles, night to nightmare slow. Dream of seas calm, sails full, far from Outlaws' reach, as the echoes of Eustace's waves fade into the quiet mist of memory. Let us drift now to the heart of France, where stone castles rise like ancient guardians under wide skies. Here, in the early years of the 1400s, a boy named Gilles de Rais opened his eyes to a world of green fields and flowing rivers. Born around the autumn of 1405 in the sturdy walls of Champtocé Castle, nestled along the gentle curve of the Loire River, Gilles came from a line of nobles whose names whispered through the halls of power. His father, Guy de Laval, rode horses across misty meadows, and his mother, Marie de Crayon, tended gardens where roses bloomed soft and red. But shadows fell early. By the time Gilles was just a child of 3 or 4, his parents slipped away. His father in a hunting mishap under gray autumn leaves, his mother in the quiet sorrow of illness. Left as orphans, Gilles and his younger brother, René, found shelter under the watchful eye of their grandfather, Jean de Craon, a man whose steps echoed with the weight of old feuds and clever schemes. Imagine young Gilles in those early days, his small hands gripping the reins of a pony as he learned to ride, through forests where leaves rustled like secrets. Champtocé's towers stood tall against the horizon, their stones warmed by summer sun, cooled by winter rains that pattered soft on slate roofs. Jean de Crayon raised him with tales of knights and battles, filling his head with dreams of glory amid the endless tug of the 100 years. War. England and France pulled at each other like tides, and Gilles, with his dark hair and bright eyes, grew strong in body and bold in spirit. By his teens, he wandered the estates that would one day be his. Vast lands, stretching from the salty marshes of Brittany to the rolling hills of Anjou and Poitou, castles like Tiffauges, with its deep moats reflecting cloudy skies, and Machecoul, where gulls cried over thatched villages, became his playgrounds. He learned the sword's weight, the bow's curve, and the quiet power of command, his voice steady even as a boy. In 1420, at 15, Gilles stepped into manhood with a marriage that bound him closer to these lands. Catherine de Thouars, a gentle soul from a neighboring house, became his wife in a ceremony at Chalon-sur-Loire, where candles flickered in arched windows and the river murmured below. Their union brought more fields, more mills grinding grain under steady wheels, and in time, a daughter named Marie, born around 1432, her cries soft in the cradle of a chamber, hung with tapestries of hunting scenes. Life seemed full then. Feasts in great halls where minstrels plucked lutes, their notes drifting like smoke from hearth fires. Hunts through dew-kissed woods, where deer moved silent as dreams. Gilles' wealth flowed like the Loire itself. 30,000 livres, a year from rents on farms where peasants sowed barley in rich soil, from salt pans where tides lapped at white crystals, from forests felled for timber that floated down to distant ports. He kept 200 mounted men, their armor glinting in morning light, ready for the king's call. But the war's drumbeat grew louder, pulling Gilles from his hearths to the muddy fields of battle. By 1426, he rode with French forces reclaiming Maine, his banner snapping in winds that carried the scent of damp earth and distant smoke. Sieges wore on slow. At Le Lude, walls crumbled under catapult stones that thudded like heartbeats. At Malicorne-sur-Sarthe, He led charges where horses churned soil to mud, and English cries mixed with French resolve. Then came 1429, a year that etched his name in light before the dark. In the chill of February, at Chinon Castle, a young girl named Joan arrived, her voice clear as a bell, claiming visions from saints. Gilles, now 24, stood among the Dauphin's counselors, tall, with a cloak of fine wool, his gaze sharp as a falcon's. He believed in her fire, and soon rode as her protector, his men forming a shield around her slight frame. Together they marched to Orléans, that river city hemmed by English siege lines like a noose. In May, under skies heavy with spring rain, Gilles fought at her side. At the Bastille of Saint-Loup, arrows whistled through air thick with dust, and ladders scraped against stone as men climbed toward freedom. Joan urged them on, her standard bright, and Gilles swung his sword in arcs that cleared paths through the fray. Victory came slow, then swift. The English fled, leaving tents empty and fires dying to embers. From there, the Loire campaign unfolded like a ribbon of triumphs. At Jargeau in June, Gilles helped storm the bridge, the river below churning with the splash of fallen foes. At Patay, on a field of golden wheat, French knights routed the enemy in a charge that echoed like thunder rolling far. Gilles' horse pounded earth, his lance steady, and when the dust settled, he knelt to be knighted by Joan's hand, the moment sealed in the warmth of summer sun. To Rheims they went, a pilgrimage of hope. Gilles carried the holy ampulla, that sacred vial of oil, its crystal cool in his palms, as Charles II was crowned in the cathedral's glow. Bells pealed long, filling the air with joy, and Gilles felt the weight of destiny settle like a mantle. In reward, the king granted him arms bordered with golden lilies, a mark of favor that shone on his shield in battles to come. He fought at Montepillois in August, where fields turned red, at Paris in September, scaling walls slick with rain until Joan's wound halted the push, even after her capture at Compiègne in 1430. News that hung heavy as fog over camps. Gilles pressed on, loyal to the end. In 1431, at 26, Charles named him Marshal of France, the youngest ever, a title that rang through courts like a promise of more glories. Yet glory's shine dulled with time. By the mid-1430s, Gilles withdrew from the fields, his steps turning homeward to Tiffauges and Machecoul. The war's endless pull had scarred the land. Villages with roofs patched hasty, fields fallow where men once tilled. He poured his gold into splendor. Mystery plays in vast halls, where actors in painted masks recited lines of saints and sieges, their voices echoing off vaulted ceilings, choirs of boys whose songs rose pure as mist from the chapel of the Holy Innocents, which he built in 1433, its stones laid with care under arches that caught the light just so. Servants bustled in corridors lined with tapestries of hunts and heroes, carrying trays of spiced wine that warmed the throat like forgotten summers. But the coffers emptied slow at first, then swift. Lands sold to pay for silks from Italy, jewels that caught firelight in chambers where candles burned late into night. Whispers of alchemy crept in, soft as smoke from alchemists' flasks. Around 1438, a priest named Eustache Blanchet brought word of a Tuscan scholar, François Prelati, whose books promised gold from Leyde, secrets pulled from stars and shadows. Gilles welcomed them to Tiffauges, its towers looming over valleys where rivers wound lazy. In hidden rooms, with walls hung heavy to muffle chants, They drew circles on floors dusted with chalk, murmuring names of demons like Baron and Beelzebub. Herbs bubbled in pots over low flames, their scents sharp and green, mingling with the earth's damp breath from below. Gilles signed pacts in blood pricked from his thumb, the ink drying black as midnight, hoping for riches to fill the voids left by spent fortunes. But the gold did not flow. Instead, frustration settled like dust on unused goblets. It was in this dimming light, between 1432 and 1433, that darker urges stirred, quiet at first, then insistent as a tide rising unseen. Villages around his castles, small, clusters of thatched homes where smoke curled from chimneys at dawn, began to note children gone, boys mostly from 7 to 15, with faces still round from youth, lured by promises of work or bread. A lad sent to beg alms at Machecoul's gates, his basket empty under noon sun. Another playing by the moat at Tifauge, skipping stones that plipped into green water. Parents waited, then searched, through woods where leaves carpeted paths soft, past mills where wheels turned with a steady creak, but found only echoes. Gilles' servants, men like Henriette Griard and Etienne Corillot, known as Poitou, moved through these places like familiar shadows, their voices low and kind. They brought the boys to private towers, rooms high and still, where tapestries muffled cries and fires crackled in grates that hid more than warmth. What followed in those chambers was a horror woven from silk and steel, slow and deliberate as the turning of seasons. The children, trusting at first, would stand in the glow of candlelight that danced on stone walls, their small hands unclenched. Gilles, in robes of velvet soft as night, would draw near, his touch starting gentle, then twisting to pain that bloomed sharp. Ropes from ceilings, cords knotted careful, lifted them like puppets in a forgotten play, their toes brushing air thick with the scent of wax and fear. Assaults came then, intimate and cruel, bodies bent to whims that left marks unseen but felt deep. When the moment peaked, blades followed. Short swords, glinting faint, slicing throats with a whisper, blood warm and quick on flagstones, heads severed slow, eyes wide in final stares, rolled to rest where Gilles could gaze, his breath steady as he lingered in the quiet after. Bodies, small and broken, found ends in flames or earth, furnaces in castle depths, fed with logs that snapped orange, consumed limbs wrapped in cloth, smoke rising through chimneys to blend with hearth vapors, or pits dug hasty in cellars, covered with lime that hissed soft, dissolving what remained. Sometimes, in rituals tied to the alchemist's arts, parts were kept, blood in vials stoppered tight, organs laid on altars of oak, polished smooth, offered to shadows that never answered. Up to 140 souls the whispers grew, though numbers blurred like mist at dawn. Girls slipped in too, fewer but no less lost. A child of 8 from La Boucardière, tending a sibling by the stream. Another of 12, carrying a message through apple orchards heavy with fruit. Accomplices shared the weight. Tiffaine, Branchou, and Perrine Martin, women whose steps knew the villages well, coaxing the young with smiles and sweets. Gilles de Sillé, a cousin bound by old tie, and Roger de Briqueville, with his quiet nods, helped hide the traces, their hands steady in the dim. Years passed in this hidden rhythm, the land outside unchanged. Farmers guiding plows through furrows of dark soil, women drawing water from wells, where buckets creaked on ropes, children laughing in lanes until they did not. Gilles moved between castles like a ghost in his own life. Champtocé's gardens where fountains trickled clear, Machecoul's halls filled with the hum of looms weaving wool fine. His daughter Marie played in sun-dappled courtyards, unaware, her laughter light as birdsong. But debts mounted, lands slipped away, sold to the Duke of Brittany in 1439 for sums that vanished quick into plays and potions. Anger simmered, spilling over on a May day in 1440, near Saint-Étienne-de-Mer-Morte. Gilles, with armed men at his back, stormed a chapel during Mass, guisarme in hand, seizing Jean Le Ferron, a clerk whose brother held a castle Gilles coveted. The violation rang through the church's nave. Bells silent. Air thick with incense turned sour. Word spread like ripples on a pond still. Bishop Jean de Malestroit of Nantes, his robes brushing stone floors in the cathedral's hush, gathered tales from grieving mothers, hands wrung raw, voices low with loss. On July 29th, letters patent flew, accusing Gilles of shadows deeper than theft. The Duke's men moved swift. On September 15th, at Machecoul, Captain Jean Labbé led the arrest, irons clinking soft in torchlight. Gilles, caught in his chamber amid books of spells bound in leather worn, faced the world anew. Imprisoned in Nantes' Château des Ducs de Bretagne, its walls cool and unyielding, he stood at trial in twin streams. One secular, for assaults and vanished young, one ecclesiastical, for heresies whispered in circles of salt. The courts convened in autumn's gentle fade, leaves turning gold outside windows barred. Witnesses came, over 50 strong, parents with eyes hollow as autumn fields, recounting sons sent to gates with baskets, never home for supper's stew. Accomplices broke under questions kind at first, then firm. Henriette speaking of nights in towers where cords swung slow, Poitou of bodies fed to fires that glowed red. Prelati, the Tuscan with his accent soft, told of demons called in vain. Child offerings laid on altars cold. Gilles held firm at first, his marshal's pride a shield. But on October 21st, in a room high with draughts that stirred parchments, he yielded. No torture touched him, only the weight of words like stones in still water. He confessed it all, voice steady through tears. The lures, the chambers, the blade's kiss, the joys twisted dark that no light touched. I sit upon them as they fade, he said. The room silent, save for scribes' quills scratching faint. Sentences fell on October 25th, heavy as rain on thatch. The church absolved his soul after abjuration, chants rising in the cathedral where light filtered through stained glass, painting floors in hues of blue and crimson. The secular court spoke of death for murders, and Majesté wronged. On the 26th, under skies soft with cloud, they walked to the scaffold on Ile de Biesse, a meadow where grass bent in breeze off the Loire. 40,000 watched, breath held collective, as Gilles knelt first, head bowed, words of repentance floating gentle. He urged Henriette and Poitou to meet God brave, then climbed the gibbet tall, rope course on neck. At 11 it snapped taut, his form stilled against the horizon, body claimed by noble women for burial in Notre-Dame-des-Carmes, where incense would curl eternal, while flames took the rest, ashes light as forgotten snow. In the quiet after, lands returned piecemeal to daughter and brother, the Loire flowing on unchanged. Gilles' name lingered in whispers by hearths, where parents held children close, a caution woven into lullabies soft. His tale, half hero, half shadow, reminds how light can bend to night in hearts once bold. Yet in the end, repentance's peace claimed him, a final drift toward whatever waters wait beyond. Let us linger here a while, as twilight deepens over those old stones. Picture Tiffages now. Vines climbing walls where echoes sleep, moats still as glass under moon that sails slow. Villages mend, a mother stirring pot of leeks and bread, steam rising warm, a boy kicking stones in lane, safe in evening's hush. The war wound down, fields greening anew, but Gila's path stays etched, a river branching dark from glory's stream. Breathe with the wind through those forests, feel the earth's steady pulse beneath. In the part to come, we turn east, to rugged hills where a prince named Vlad sharpened points of fear, his forests silent with warning. For now, let these words settle like leaves in autumn, carrying you soft to dreams where shadows hold no sway. To ease the drift further, recall the Loire's bend at Champtocé, waters clear over pebbles round, fish slipping silver through currents slow. Gilles as boy would skip along banks, skipping stones that plinked faint, laughter mixing with bird calls sharp. Grandfather Jean, with beard gray as frost, taught him falconry, birds hooded, wings folded patient, loosed to sky where they wheeled high. Early hunts, bows drawn in woods dim, arrows whispering through fern, quarry falling soft to moss. Marriage to Catherine brought peace brief, walks in gardens where paths wound gravel crunch underfoot. Her hand light in his, talk of futures painted bright. Military days bloomed vivid. Orléans streets, narrow and mud slick, filled with cheers as Joan passed. Gilles at her flank, men-at-arms in mail that clinked rhythm. Bastille storms, ladders leaning precarious, hands gripping rungs wet, shouts lost in arrow hail. Jargeau's bridge, planks groaning under charge, river spray cool on faces flushed. Paté's field, wheat swaying gold before hooves tore it under, dust rising sweet as hay. Rames's nave, air thick with myrrh, Gila's steps measured on marble cool, Ampoula's weight a sacred pull. Marshal's badge, gold heavy on chest, caught light in tents where maps unrolled by lamplight yellow. Decline's creep was subtle, plays in halls vast, stages of wood planed smooth, costumes sewn with thread fine, audiences in benches worn, applause rippling like brook over stones, chapel's choir, boys' voices high and pure, notes climbing arches to rafters beamed dark, alchemy's allure, flasks bubbling azure, vapors curling blue, Prelati's chants low as wind through reeds, failures piled, gold turned base, demons silent as stone, crime's veil thinned gradual, villages rhythms, cocks crowing dawn, carts rumbling to market with cabbages crisp, children darting barefoot, lures simple, come see the Lord's fine horse, or bread for your toil. Towers, hush, doors closing click, candles guttering draft, hair close with wool and fear sweat, axe drawn long in minds quiet, touches testing, then insistent, chords swaying gentle at first, blade's edge cold, drawn deliberate, after fire's comfort false, logs popping soft, shadows playing on walls like ghosts at play, trials solemn pace, courts benches oak polished, judges in robes black, air-scented ink and vellum, witnesses' tales, voices trembling faint. My boy, with hair like wheat, gone to gates at noon. Confessions flow, words tumbling slow, regrets heavy as dew on petals, Scaffolds meadow, grass dew-kissed, crowds murmur like distant sea, ropes sway final as pendulum, legacies fade. Castles crumble gentle, ivy tender on stone, rivers carve patient, stories soften in retelling. Heroes shine enduring over shade. Sleep now with Loire's lullaby, waves of history rocking mild. More tales wait, but rest claims first. Blanket warm, breath even deep. And so the night deepens, words weaving slower still. Think of Jones Fields, now quiet pastures, where cows graze lazy. Bells tinkling faint. Giles's banner, furled long, dust motes dancing in sunbeams through slits in walls. Daughter Marie, grown in gardens tended careful, life blooming where dark once rooted. Accomplices ends, flames flickering brief, then ash to wind that carries free. Demons' names, forgotten murmur in books shelved dim. Pages yellowed time's touch, villages heal. New children born under stars steady. Laughter filling lanes at dusk. War's scars green over, vines twisting hopeful. Gilles himself, in final moments, eyes to heaven clear. Peace stealing in like dawn's first light. All paths bend eventual to quiet. Rivers to sea, hearts to hush. Drift with that knowing listener kind, till part 3 calls soft, as the whispers of Gilles, Loire fade into the gentle hush of forgotten rivers. Let us turn our gaze eastward now, to the jagged spine of mountains where forests cloak secrets deep and old. Here, in the wild heart of Wallachia, a land of craggy peaks and misty valleys, a boy named Vlad was born under the chill stars of late autumn in 1431. The year was one of strife, with Ottoman shadows lengthening over the Danube's slow curve, but in the stone fortress of Sighisoara, high on a hill where winds sang through pine branches, his first cries echoed soft against walls thick and unyielding. His father, Vlad II Dracul, wore the Order of the Dragon, a badge of silver scales and ruby eyes, sworn to guard Christendom against the infidel tide. His mother, Kneajna, a Moldavian princess with hair dark as raven wings, cradled him in chambers warmed by peat fires that crackled low, their smoke curling up flues to blend with the scent of resin from the woods below. Picture young Vlad in those early days, his small feet padding on rush-strewn floors, eyes wide to the flicker of tallow candles. Sighisoara's streets wound narrow below the citadel, thatched roofs huddling like sheep under slate overhangs, where merchants hawked spices sharp and wool dyed deep. But peace was a fragile thread. By 1436, at just 5 years old, Vlad and his brother Radu followed their father to Transylvania, a realm of green meadows rolling under skies vast and blue. There, in the court at Târgoviște, amid halls paneled in oak dark and carved with vines, Vlad learned the weight of a name that meant Son of the Dragon. Lessons came slow, quill in hand to scratch, Latin letters on parchment rough, bow drawn in courtyards where gravel crunched under boots, sword gripped in palms still soft from boyhood. Tutors spoke of history's rivers, Roman legions marching long ago, Mongol hooves thundering faint echoes, while the air carried the tang of baking bread from kitchens where loaves rose golden. But the dragon's shadow pulled him young into chains. In 1442, at 11, during a parley at Iflak with Ottoman envoys, betrayal struck like a hidden blade. Sultan Murad II seized Vlad and Radu as pledges for their father's loyalty. spirits bound in silk ropes to the seraglio's gilded cages in Adrianople. The city sprawled wide, minarets piercing haze thick with the call of muezzins at dawn, markets alive with the jingle of brass and the spice of cumin heavy on the breeze. Vlad, tall for his age with hair black as midnight and eyes gray as storm clouds, paced marble floors cool underfoot, his mind sharpening like flint on stone. Servants brought trays of pilaf, steaming, and figs sweet as summer, but freedom was a dream deferred. Radu, younger and softer, bent easier to the Sultan's ways, learning Turkish words that flowed like honey, while Vlad nursed grudges quiet, watching janissaries drill in courtyards where dust rose in clouds fine. For 6 years he endured, hunting with falcon on leashes jessed tight, riding ponies through olive groves where leaves whispered silver, but always under eyes that missed nothing. Release came in 1448, not as gift but as pawn in greater games. Hunyadi, the White Knight of Hungary, needed allies against the Turks, and Vlad, now a youth of 17, rode back to Wallachia with fire banked low in his chest. His father lay dead, throat slit in a church at Baltani, blood pooling on flagstones worn by prayers, while his elder brother Mircea choked in a pit of lime that burned slow. The throne, a seat of carved walnut in halls where tapestries hung heavy with dust, called him brief. For 2 months in 1448, Vlad ruled from Târgoviște, his banner of dragon rampant snapping in winds that carried the scent of pine sap from Carpathian slopes. But boyars, nobles with beards gray and cloaks lined fur, rose against him, their horses thundering through passes narrow, swords glinting cold. Defeat sent him fleeing to Moldavia, Uncle Bogdan's court a haven of stone keeps where rivers rushed white over boulders round. Exile honed him further. In 1451, at 20, Vlad slipped into Wallachia again, a shadow in the night, allying with Hunyadi to topple the puppet prince. From hills cloaked in mist, where deer moved silent through fern, he struck, ambushes in defiles tight, arrows sighing from bows strung taut, foes falling to earth soft with moss, victory perched brief, the throne his once more. But Ottomans tugged the strings. Sultan Mehmed II, young and iron-willed, demanded tribute. Boys for the janissaries, girls for harems veiled in silk. Vlad paid in coin, grudging, sacks heavy with silver groschen minted fresh, while fortifying borders. Poenari Castle rose on cliffs sheer, its walls hauled stone by stone, up paths that wound like serpents, overlooking the Argeș River's gleam far below. Watchtowers pierced the sky, bells tolling slow to mark hours when guards paced ramparts slick with dew. The year 1456 marked his true grasp. Hunyadi gone to plague's quiet claim, Vlad turned on the boyars who haunted his line. On Easter Sunday, in Târgoviște's great hall, where tables groaned under roasts of boar glazed, honey-sweet he feasted them, wine flowing red as the wounds to come. At dawn, as bells pealed soft for resurrection, his men moved like wolves in fog. Chains rattled faint, swords whispered from sheaths, and the old lords marched to Poenari. There, on fields green with spring grass, hammers fell steady, stakes of oak whittled sharp, driven deep into soil dark. The boyars, robes torn and faces pale as ash, were lifted slow, points piercing flesh with a sigh, bodies swaying gentle in the breeze like banners limp. Wives and sons joined them, a forest of warnings under skies blue and vast, where crows wheeled lazy, their cries lost in the wind's low moan. Over 500, the tales say, their end a message carved in agony. Cross the dragon, and the spike awaits. From that bloodied root, Vlad's rule bloomed fierce. He drained the land's old poisons slow. Peasants, bent under plows of wood scarred, found laws etched fair. Thieves hanged from gallows creaking in village squares, where apples hung red nearby. False merchants boiled in cauldrons over fires that popped and spat, the steam rising thick with the scent of iron and regret. Tergovist grew under his hand. Churches of brick rising modest, their domes onion-shaped catching first light. Wells dug deep where buckets swung on ropes frayed. Water clear and cold. He rode the land himself, cloak of sable dark against snow that blanketed passes white, visiting holds where hearths glowed orange, sharing bread coarse with folk whose hands calloused from scythe and hoe. Loyalty he bought with justice bent his way. A widow's field spared tax, a boy's theft forgiven if first offense, but betrayal met the stake unyielding. The Ottomans tested him soon. In 1459, demands escalated. 10,000 ducats, 500 boys for the Sultan's ranks. Vlad stalled, coin melting into walls at Chilia, where the Danube met the sea in a murmur broad. By 1461, raids spilled over. Turkish horsemen in turbans white, scimitars curved like crescent moons, burning hamlets where thatch crackled, orange, driving herds lowing into dust. Vlad answered in kind, slipping across the river under moons thin as sickles. Villages in Bulgaria felt his touch first. Night riders silent as owls, torches flaring brief to light the way. Homes gutted, wells poisoned with carcasses bloated, fields salted barren. But the jewel was Tergovishte's reprisal in 1462. As Mehmed's envoy, Hamza advanced. Vlad's scouts watched from ridges fringed pine. In the dead of a foggy dawn, bells tolled false from minarets mocked, luring the host to fields sown death. What followed chilled even the winds of the steppe. 20,000 stakes, hauled by oxen, patient through forests where leaves carpeted soft, ringed the way like a crown of thorns. Turks advanced, hooves churning mud to slurry, banners of green silk fluttering proud. Then the forest revealed itself, points jutting skyward, bodies twisted in poses eternal, the air thick with the hum of flies and the slow drip of what lingered. Impalements fresh joined old, captives lifted by winches creaking, spikes greased slick entering slow from below, men writhing as birds take to wing reluctant. Hamza himself, beard oiled black, met the point last, his end a gurgle faint amid the moans that rose like a dirge from the plain. Birds picked at eyes glazed, the sun climbing to bake the scene in haze golden. Mehmed, hearing tales by campfires where embers died to gray, turned back, his army's steps hurried over bridges swaying. Vlad's fame spread then, a whisper on the trade winds that carried amber and fur. In Brasov, merchants from Saxony penned letters sealed wax, calling him Dracula, son of the devil. They wrote, in inks black as his deeds, tales embroidered slow, him dining among the pierced, cloth spread white on a table set with silver, while servants poured Malmsey wine tart. The grass beneath stained dark, truth bent softer. He supped in tents of felt patched, bread dipped in stew of mutton spiced cumin, maps unrolled by lantern light yellow. But the name stuck. A cloak he wore proud, signing writs with a flourish red as sealing wax. Winters came harsh after, snows deep as a man's height, blanketing Carpathians white, wolves howling faint from ridges iced. Supplies dwindled, Saxons in Transylvania, kin to old foes, closed gates bolted iron, trade halted like a breath held. Vlad raided them too, flames licking barns where hay bales burst golden, captives dragged back over frozen streams that cracked under sleds. By 1462's end, Mehmed marched again, 200,000 strong, tents blooming like mushrooms on plains vast. Vlad burned his own lands retreating, fields fired to black, wells fouled with rot, a scorched gift to deny the foe. From mountains, his men struck guerrilla, ambushes in gorges narrow where echoes bounced sharp, boulders rolled thundering to crush ranks below, arrows feathered goose loosed in volleys silent. Betrayal brewed in the cold. Brother Radu, molded Ottoman, rode with the host, his face familiar under a helmet chased gold. Boyars wavered, some slipping to the Sultan's camp where braziers glowed welcoming. In January 1477, no, wait, the tide turned 1476. Vlad fled to Hungary, King Matthias Corvinus offering shelter in halls of Buda where rugs wove patterns intricate underfoot. There, in chambers hung velvet deep, he wed a kin named Ilona Silagi, her gown of brocade whispering as they walked gardens where fountains plashed gentle. A son came, Mihnea, his cries soft in cradles rocked by nurses with songs low. But captivity lingered. Matthias held him suspect, chains polite in towers where views stretched to horizons hazy. Freedom flickered brief in 1476. With Matthias's nod grudging, Vlad returned to Wallachia, throne reclaimed in blood. Radu, dead to fever's claim, he ruled from Poenari, its cliffs guarding secrets. Ottomans pressed again, battles blurring in snowmelt floods. At Rukar, stakes lined the pass like teeth in a jaw grim. Foes pierced writhing as rain pattered soft on leaves new. But numbers overwhelmed. On December 10th, near Snagov, in woods tangled with bramblethorn, assassins struck, boyars turned, blades flashing quick in moonlight silver. Vlad fell, some say fighting bare to the waist, his end a tangle of limbs and leaves damp. Head severed, sent to Mehmed on a pike greased, body buried quiet in the monastery's earth, where monks chanted psalms fading. His legacy lingered like mist in valleys. Wallachia endured, borders held by sons who bore the name. Impalements fewer, but the dragon's breath cooled slow. Tales grew in taverns by hearths crackling, where ale foamed in mugs pewter. Of a prince who dined with death, blood is wine, stakes is scepter. Yet beneath the chill a guardian stood. Ottoman advance halted decades, Europe breathing easier under skies cleared. Vlad, the impaler, son of dragon, wove fear into shield. His forests silent witnesses to a land unbowed. Let us rest here amid the pines' sigh, as night cloaks the Carpathians soft. Vlad's points fade to memory's edge, but more shadows wait in the weave. In the part ahead, we sail west to seas salted, where black Bart Roberts danced with devils on waves that rocked eternal. For now, feel the earth's hush beneath, breath sinking with winds low, drifting easy to sleep's gentle shore, to wander deeper in quiet, recall Sigashora's hill, streets cobbled smooth by centuries' tread, houses leaning neighborly with shutters painted blue. Young Vlad chased siblings through alleys dim, laughter bubbling like springs hidden, father's dragon ring, cool silver on finger small, sparked tales of knights sworn fierce. In Adrianople's sprawl, gardens bloomed riot. Roses pink as dawn, fountains arcing water fine, but bars on windows arched whispered captivity's truth. Lessons there, chess on boards inlaid ivory, pieces carved elephant bone moving deliberate, horsemanship on steeds Arabian, manes flowing silk as they cantered dust-free. Returns thrill, Walachia's air sharp with time wild. Rivers Danube gleaming under bridges of wood swaying. Throne rooms throne, cushioned velvet worn, creaked under his weight first. Boyers' feast. Platters heaped venison roasted slow, sauces thick with berry tart. Then the march, chains clinking rhythm like bells muffled. Poenari's building. Masons chipping stone hammer on chisel ring. Carts rumbling up trails rutted. Wives singing lilts soft to ease the toil. Rain's daily hush. Mornings in chapel dim. Incense curling blue from thuribles swung gentle. Afternoons on hunts where hounds bayed distant through mist. Quarry flushed from cover thick. Laws proclaimed from steps of courts where pigeons cooed on ledges ledge. Scrolls unrolled voice steady. Theft meets the noose, swift as shadow. Villages stirred. Smiths hammering iron red at anvils ringing. Bakers kneading dough, pale, rising warm. Ottoman envoys. Silks shimmering in sun slanted. Demands read from parchments curled. Vlad's nod, cool as riverstone. Raids nights. Fords crossed knee-deep in current chill. Villages asleep under roofs reed. Flames leaping sudden to paint faces orange. Tergovishta's trap. Fog rolling valley like breath held. Stakes planted moonless. Hammers thudding earth soft. The field of Balsh. Air heavy wrought sweet. Moans fading to sigh as sun warmed wood slick. Mehmed's camp. Tents vast as sails furled. Cooks stirring pots vast over fires vast. Tales murmured low of the devil's work. Burnings. Torches dipped pitch black. Fields ignited whoosh, faint. Smoke pillars gray to heaven. Matthias's court. Feasts of pheasant plucked fine. Lutes strumming melancholy. Marriage's vows in chapels vaulted. Rings exchanged gold simple. Final stand, wood's embrace. Brambles snagging cloak torn. Blades clash brief as spark struck. Burial's peace. Earth turned spade quiet. Crosses plain marking ground sacred. Echoes soften. Mountains stand sentinel eternal. Rivers carve patient. Names whispered fond in songs folk. Vlad's fire guarded hearth home, cost high as any crown. Sleep with that balance. Wines cradling mild. Stars pricking black velvet above. And further still, the night unfolds lazy. Think of Danube's bend. Waters deep, and dreaming fish beneath. Boats poled slow by men in vests wool. Songs hummed off-key. Radu's tent, silks draped loose. Brotherly talks by lamps, brass flickering. Boyers' halls, tapestries frayed, showing hunts faded. Betrayals brewed over wine soured. Poenari's queen, walls her prison high. Views vast, but chains invisible. Son Mihnea's play. Wooden sword swung wild in yards gravelled. Laughter pure as stream. Impalement's craft. Carpenters planing oak smooth. Points fire-hardened glowing brief. Meals amid horror. Cloth clean on grass dew. Knives carving bread crusty. Wine sipped thoughtful. Saxon letters. Quills scratching vellum stretched. Seals pressed hot. Matthias's doubt. interviews in rooms paneled, questions probing like probes gentle, returns joy, throne warmed again, banners refurled proud, last battle's fog, steps muffled leaf, breaths held collective, steel's kiss final, head's journey, pike borne slow through camps hushed, Mehmed's gaze distant, grave's moss creeping tender over stone, legacy's bloom, peace bought dear, borders firm as root deep, all fades eventual to quiet, princes to dust, fears to fable soft, rest deep, listener true, till next call whispers, as the echoes of Vlad's stakes settle into the quiet folds of mountain mists. Let us sail westward now, across oceans wide and restless, to the warm embrace of Caribbean, waters where sails billow, white against skies of endless blue. Here, in the year 1682, under the gentle sway of palm fronds and the distant call of gulls wheeling lazy, a boy named Bartholomew Roberts drew his first breath in the small Welsh village of Little Newcastle, nestled along the rugged coast where waves lapped soft at pebble shores. His family, simple folk of farmers and fishermen, lived in a cottage of stone whitewashed, its roof thatched thick with reeds that sighed in the wind off the Irish Sea. Father, a man with hands rough from nets, hauled heavy, and plows turned through clay soil red, named him for a saint of travelers, perhaps sensing the seas that would claim him later. Mother tended hearth fires that glowed orange low, stirring pots of barley stew thick and warm, while siblings chased each other through fields dotted yellow with gorse blooms. Imagine young Bart in those gentle days, his bare feet sinking into sand cool at dawn, toes curling around shells smooth as polished stone. The village hummed soft. Women at wells drawing water clear in buckets, wooden. Men mending sails of canvas patched. Voices low with talk of tides and catches silver. By 12, he worked the boats, oars dipping rhythm steady in waters green, pulling lobster pots that bobbed like buoys faithful. Life flowed slow then, marked by church bells tolling. Sunday, calm and fairs, where fiddles scraped merry tunes under tents striped red. But the call of salt grew stronger. At 20, Bart turned to sailing proper, crewing on slavers bound for Africa's coast, where heat hung heavy as a blanket damp, and the air carried scents of spice sharp and sweat mingled. Ships groaned under cargo human, chains clinking faint below decks dim, while above winds filled canvas full, carrying whispers of freedom's wild. By 1719, at 37, fate shifted like a helm turned sudden. Aboard the Princess, a pink-sterned vessel slicing through Atlantic swells gentle, Bart served as mate under Captain Abraham Plum. Off the Guinea coast, where mangroves fringed shores, green and crocodiles slipped silent into rivers brown, French pirates struck. In a dawn mist that clung like silk soft, longboats rowed close, oars muffled in rowlocks greased, and boarders climbed rails slick with spray. Muskets barked sharp, cutlasses rang on wood, but resistance crumbled quick as biscuit in bilge water. Plum surrendered, and Bart, with eyes steady as compass true, caught the pirate captain's eye. "Steady as she goes," the rogue said, clapping his shoulder firm, and so Bart joined the life, signing articles black on paper yellowed, promising shares equal in gold and glory. His rise was swift as a squall rising. Within months he claimed command of the Royal Fortune, a sloop swift, with hull black-tarred and guns 12-pounding, nicknamed Black Bart for his finery dark. Coats of crimson silk laced gold, waistcoats brocaded fine, hat cocked with feather curling. He cut a figure elegant amid the rough. Crews flocked to him, sailors scarred from navy whips, escaped bondsmen with accents thick from islands scattered, men seeking coin quick from holds fat. They sailed under the Jolly Roger Black, skull grinning white with crossed bones below, hourglass dripping sand to mark time borrowed. Bart's code was iron gentle. No women aboard to stir hearts soft. No gambling to breed quarrels low. Lights out at 8 when hammocks swung in holds dim, with grog rationed fair in mugs, pewter dented. Floggings rare, but mutiny met the yardarm's rope course, body swaying slow against horizon pink at dawn. The Caribbean unfolded like a map, unrolled slow under lantern light yellow. From Nassau's harbor, where waters turquoise lapped at wharves worm-eaten, they slipped out quiet. Sails trimmed fine to catch trades steady. First prizes came easy. A Dutch Guinea man off Burbus, sails furled hasty as guns trained port. Cargo of sugar crystals, white and rum barrels rolling on decks wet. Bart's men swarmed gentle, taking holds without blood spilled, sharing loot in piles glinting. Gold doubloons stamped crisp, silver pieces of 8 cool in palms calloused. He drank tea black from china cups fine, captured from English lords, while plotting courses on charts inked faint, fingers tracing routes, past cays, coral ringed where fish darted, rainbow through reefs sharp. By 1720, his fleet grew bold. 3 ships now, Royal Fortune lead with guns 24 thundering. Good Fortune sloop nimble, Ranger brigantine sturdy, off Grenada's shores, where volcanoes slumbered green under clouds cotton soft. They blockaded harbors small, demanding ransoms polite from merchants quaking, a French snow, sails patched from storms old, paid in wine casks corked tight and lace bolts shimmering, spared the torch that waited eager. Bart despised the trade that birthed him. Slavers met the seabed deep. Crews set adrift in boats with water fresh and bread hard, while hulls burned slow, flames licking masts, tall to paint nights, orange vivid. Not my game, he'd say, voice calm as glass smooth, pouring libations to Neptune in foam white. England stirred then, sending hunters like woodsman Challoner Ogle in the Swallow, a man-o'-war with hull oak-ribbed and canvas vast. But Bart danced away, winds his ally faithful, off St. Lucia's peaks mist-capped. He took 30 prizes in months few, from Barbados, Sugar Islands, where cane swayed silver in breeze, to Tobago's bays, indigo deep. One dawn off Martinique, under skies pearl gray, his ships fell on a convoy fat. 15 sail English, hulls heavy with indigo bales purple and logwood dark for dyes. Guns roared chorus, smoke curling thick as fog morning, masts splintering with cracks like thunder distant. Prizes towed astern, prizes divided fair. Silk for shirts ruffled, pistols chased silver for belts wide. Bart supped on deck then, tablecloth spread white on planking scrubbed, turtle soup steaming in bowls porcelain, toasts raised to absent kings with rum-spiced clove. Tales of his flair spread on winds trade, in Havana's taverns dim, where lanterns swung from beams low and dice rattled on tables scarred. Sailors whispered of the pirate who prayed Methodist hymns before raids, Bible open on quarterdeck worn, voice rising clear over waves lapping. He shunned the wench and bottle loose, rising early when sun crested horizon's gold, to pace poop deck with spyglass brass to eye horizons clear. yet mercy laced his steel. A Spanish governor ransomed gentle. City spared the torch for coffers filled prompt. Fishermen released with hooks bent and lines whole. Sent home with tales to soften fear. But the sea claims her boldest slow. In February 1722, off Cape Lopez on Africa's coast fevered, where mangroves whispered secrets old, and heat pressed close as lover's breath. Ogle's swallow closed the trap. Bart's ships anchored calm in roads sheltered. Crews ashore roasting yams, sweet over fires, driftwood. Grog flowing free in celebration loose. Ranger escaped north. Sails straining full, but royal fortune and good fortune tangled in shallows mud suck. Morning broke hazy, sun filtering through palms fronded, when Swallow's broadside thundered. Balls iron whistling low, splintering rails to dust fine. Bart, coat black against smoke gray, directed fire calm, swivels barking from chains rigged, but numbers pressed. Good fortune struck colors white. Captain taken meek. Ranger's turn came later. Prize to the crown. Royal fortune fought fierce then. Yards braced sharp, tacking close to rake the foe. Muskets flashed from nets hammock stuffed. Cutlasses drawn with hilts wrapped leather soft. Bart stood amidships steady. Pistol primed in hand, gloved silk. Calling orders soft over din crashing. A grape shot found him, though. Grape whirring invisible, tearing chest open red. He fell slow to deck planked salt-crusted. Blood warm on wood, warm. Eyes to sky blue, fading. Crew faltered then. Colors dipped in surrender quiet. Chains clinking as Marines boarded steady. Bart's body, wrapped canvas simple, slipped overside with cannonball lashed, sinking gentle to depths where fish silver gathered curious. 42 years his span, 2 years his reign black, yet tales endure like barnacles on hull old. Over 400 prizes claimed, from Virginia's capes fog-wreathed to Brazil's shores palm-lined, his name a shiver on tongues salt. England hanged his men in chains at Execution Dock, bodies swaying slow in Thames mud, but Bart slipped free. Legend his anchor eternal. He took more in life brief than any rogue save Blackbeard. His finery a flag of defiance gay. Let us anchor here amid the trade winds sigh, as stars prick velvet black overhead. Black Bart's waves roll on quiet, but more rogues wait in history's tide. In the part to come, we venture to England's green lanes, where Dick Turpin spurred horses swift through nights moon-silvered, highwayman bold. For now, feel the deck's gentle rock beneath, breath easing with salt air soft, drifting deep to sleep's calm harbor. To linger longer in the lull, recall Wales' coast curve, cliffs dropping sheer to foam white, caves echoing drip of tides patient. Young Bart's boats rocked cradle-like, sails small as handkerchiefs flapping eager. Village fairs, stalls heaped apples red, and cakes ginger-spiced, laughter bubbling over cider tart. On slavers' decks, horizons endless blue, stars wheeling compass-guided. Nights filled shanties low-hummed to soothe below. Pirate articles read solemn. Quill-scratching terms fair. Thumbs pricked blood to bind. Royal fortune's lines. Ropes coiled neat on pins belayed. Hammocks lashed tight in tiers swaying. Raids hush. Spyglasses sweeping horizons misted. Whispers passing like breeze-light. Prizes holds. Chests brass-bound spilling lace fine. Tobacco leaves fragrant rolled. Blockades wait. Anchors plunged chain-rattling to mud soft. Crews fishing lines baited worm. Tales spun of ghosts shipwrecked, slavers' doom. Matches struck slow to fuses hissing, hulls settling, bubbles rising. Crews watching from boats rode safe. Prayers rhythm. Pages turned parchment thin. Verses murmured over rum mugs empty. Suppers elegant, napkins tucked chin. Knives silver carving foul plump. Conversations low of ports dreamed. Ogles chase. Swallows wake, foaming trail. Scouts signaling flags semaphore. Knights tense with lanterns doused black. Final fray. Powder monkeys dashing kegs open. Gunners sponging barrels hot. Cries lost in broadside roar. Bart's fall. Coat pooling crimson slow. Hands slack on wheel scarred. Sea claiming gentle what land denied. Legacies wake. Ballads sung taverns creaking. Fiddles weeping minor keys. Children wide-eyed to yarns spun. Ports safer post his sail. Trade flowing steady once more. But whispers linger of the gentleman rogue. Tea-sipping terror of tropics warm. Sleep with those rhythms. Waves lapping hull soft. Dreams sailing free uncharted. And the night deepens easy. Stars tracing paths ancient overhead. Think of Nassau's sands, powdery white. Toes sinking warm at noon. Taverns' doors swinging on hinges oiled. Air thick tobacco and tales tall. Cruise bunks, snores blending with creek's timber. Dreams of gold hoards buried palm-shaded. Prizes divisions. Scales balancing fare. Cheers, rising mugs clashed. Bart's quarters. Charts pinned walls canvas. Astrolabe brass gleaming by candle guttering. Hymns is close. Amen fading to wind's hush. Bible closed gentle. Ransom's notes. Parchments sealed wax red. Couriers rode urgent under flag's truce. Africa's roads. Palms arching cathedral-like. Heat shimmering air still. Monkeys chattering branch to branch. Anchors drop. Splash faint, then quiet profound save insects hum evening. Swallow's shadow. Hull looming ghost through haze. Guns, portholes, black staring. Grape shots whine. Invisible reaper. Deck misting red fine. Surrenders fold. Colors lowered slow. Hands raised, palms open. Marine's boots thudding steady. Burial's right. Canvas weighted lead. Splash final as sigh released. Bubbles trailing to surface dimple. Hangings is dock. Crowds hushed river mud. Ropes not noose tight. Drops sudden to snap clean. Ballads verses. Voices gravelly by fireside. Strings plucked thumb worn. Choruses swelling hearts full. Ports is bloom. Sails crowding harbor safe. Merchants' ledgers balanced ink fresh. Bart's ghost. Sails phantom on horizons clear. Warning soft to ambitious souls. All tides turn eventual to calm. Pirates to legend faded. Seas to mirror stars serene. Restful, listener gentle. Till next whisper calls. As the salt-kissed whispers of Black Bart's sails fade into the horizon's gentle curve, let us turn our steps now to the misty lanes of old England, where hedgerows bloom white with hawthorn and the moon hangs low like a lantern soft over fields of green. Here, in the quiet autumn of 1705, in the small Essex village of Hempstead, a boy named Richard Turpin opened his eyes to a world of thatched roofs and church bells, tolling slow across the marshes wide. His father, John, a man of steady hands and kind words, worked as a butcher and smallholder, rising before dawn to sharpen knives on whetstones that sang faint, while his mother, Mary, tended the hearth where pots simmered with mutton stew thick and savory. steam rising warm to chase the chill from cottage walls of wattle and daub. Siblings bustled around, laughter light as birdsong in the dooryard, where chickens scratched earth soft. And young Dick, with hair tousled brown and eyes bright as polished oak, chased them through gardens where beans climbed poles, green, and apples hung heavy on boughs bent. Picture those early days unfolding slow, like pages in a book left open by candlelight yellow. Hempstead lay nestled in the tendering hundred, a land of flat fields stretching to the sea's distant murmur, where winds carried the tang of salt and the low of cattle grazing lazy. By 7, Dick helped his father at the shop, a lean-to shed where hooks dangled from beams low, sides of beef swaying gentle as he learned to wield the cleaver with swings careful, meat falling clean to blocks scarred deep. School came brief, in a room dim with ink pots and slates scratched, where he spelled words like honor and ride under the master's gaze firm but fair. Summers brought fairs to nearby markets, stalls heaped with ribbons red and gingerbread men spiced, fiddles scraping tunes that set feet tapping on grass dew-kissed. Winters huddled families close, tales spun by firelight where logs popped soft, shadows dancing on walls whitewashed, of ghosts on the Roman road that cut straight through the fens misty. But the pull of wilder paths grew quiet in his teens. At 18, Dick wed Eleanor Smith, a girl from the village with cheeks rosy as dawn apples, in a church small where vows echoed off stones cool, rings simple silver exchanged under arches ivy draped. They set house in a cottage humble, roof-patched reed, where mornings started with milk from cows lowing in meadows fog-shrouded. He took up butchery full, shop in Town Street bustling gentle, customers haggling soft over cuts wrapped paper coarse, coins clinking into tills wooden, yet idleness whispered too, poaching nights when moon silvered the hedgerows, snares set quiet for rabbits gray that thumped soft in traps woven willow. Gamekeepers prowled with lanterns dim, but Dick slipped like smoke through thickets bramble-tangled, heart quick but steps light as leaf fall. By 1730, at 25, the law's long arm brushed close. Essex justices, stern in wigs powdered and robes black, sought men for smuggling gin from Dutch, boats that ghosted the coast, under cover dark. Dick joined the gang at Waltham Cross, cellars damp beneath inns where barrels rolled quiet, spirit clear as water but fire hot on tongue. Runs happened moonless, carts creaking over rutted lanes, muffled by straw-thick, guards bribed with nods and coin sly. Prophets bought finery, a coat of broadcloth fine, breeches buckled knee, had tricorn cocked jauntily, while Eleanor waited home, sewing hems by needles prick steady, unaware of shadows lengthening. Deeper waters called then, housebreaking crept in, soft as fog rolling from the Stour. With mates like Tom King, a poacher broad-shouldered with laugh rumbling low, they cracked doors with crowbars cold, windows eased, sash silent under nights star-pricked. Farms yielded silver spoons glinting faint, linens folded chest-bound, jewelry tucked pockets deep. One raid at Lord Percival's manor, halls paneled oak polished, saw them lift a silver ewer chased floral, heavy as promise, slipped out past hounds dozing by hearths glowing. But risks mounted. Constables with pistols primed patrolled roads gravel crunch. Rewards posted broadsheet yellow for Turpin the Breaker, likeness crude with eyes too wide. Highway life bloomed from that soil dark. In 1733, Dick spurred to the Great North Road, horse-a-bay gelding steady named Black Bess, though legends later painted her ebony sleek. Cloaked in greatcoat wool heavy, pistols twin in holsters, leather-scented, he waylaid coaches rumbling slow, lanterns swaying like fireflies drunk. "Stand and deliver!" His cry rang clear but not unkind. Mask silk over face tied loose, while Tom rode flank, musket leveled calm. Travelers, merchants in periwigs curled, fumbled purses with hands trembling, gold guineas spilling moon-bright on turf damp. A lady's necklace pearl-strung, a parson's watch brass-ticked. Spoils divided fair by campfire low, where rabbits roasted spit-turned, juice dripping sizzle to embers red. Inns, like the Red Lion at Epping, sheltered them, ostlers winking over ale mugs frothy. Rooms upstairs with beds, feather-stuffed, sighing under weight weary. Tom's end came swift in 1734, betrayed by a tip-whispered alehouse dim. At the White Hart in Edgware, under beams smoke-blackened, bailiffs burst doors splintering, pistols barking flashpan bright. Tom fell, blood-warm on rushes strewn, while Dick escaped window leap to alley shadowed, heart-pounding drum-like. Alone now he roamed wider. Yorkshire moors purple with heather, lanes of Kent apple orchard lined. One tale, embroidered time's thread loose, tells of a ride mad from London to York, 200 miles in 15 hours. Bess's hooves flashing mud, foam flecking flanks gray, wind whipped cloak like banner torn. Inns blurred past in dust clouds rising, to prove alibi false in court oak paneled, truth gentler. Steady trots over days many, changes at stables hay-scented, where ostlers rubbed down sweat-glistened hides. Fame grew like ivy on walls old, broadsheets hawked streets cobbled, woodcuts showing him gallant rogue, pistols crossed chest, horse-rearing noble, ballads sung taverns creaking. Turpin's valor, bold and free, rides the knight on Bess so fleet. Women sighed soft over tea scalding. Men toasted mugs clashed to the gentlemen of the road. Yet law closed net slow. In 1735, at Welham Green, a gamekeeper recognized his stride familiar. Shot winged his arm. Pain blooming hot as he fled thicket-bound. He hid in caves lime-quarried, damp with drip echo, wounds bound rag torn, while pauses beat bushes rustling. Bess carried him faithful through winters crisp, summers green-foliaged. Raids on mail coaches, bags leather-strapped, bursting letters sealed wax, yielded bills crisp and rings gold-banded. A toll-gate keeper, beard grizzled, paid quiet with pouch heavy, spared the bullet's bite. But shadows gathered. In 1738 at York, fate turned sly. Dick, weary of roads endless, took name John Palmer. Inn at the Bell, where travelers supped mutton pie flaky, a nut brown poured steady. A stolen silver bowl, chased hunt scenes, traced him there. Magistrate's warrant flew swift as raven wing. Arrest came rain soft on a morning gray. At the inn's yard, cobbles slick puddle mirrored. Constables seized him gentle but firm. Irons cold on wrists chafed. To York Castle he went. Cells stone damp where rats scratched night long. Straw pallet thin under back aching. Trial in March 1739. Assizes court packed benches creaking. Air thick with pipe smoke curling. Witnesses filed solemn. A victim's widow. Voice quaver faint over pearls lost. A ostler swearing to Bess's gate, sure. Dick stood tall, periwig fresh powdered, denying with words silver-tongued, but proofs piled damning. Bowl's mark engraved, shots matched pistol bore. Verdict guilty rang like knell bell. Judge's gavel wood on oak thud. The ride to gallows stretched slow. Through streets thronged silent. Faces pale pressed window glass. On April 7th at Knavesmire, under skies leaden soft, the cart rumbled gravel grind to the triple tree tall. Chaplain murmured psalms low, Bible leather-bound open palm, while Dick tipped hat to crowd gentle, quill-dipped ink to scribble final note. God bless King George. Noose hemp ruff settled neck, hood black drawn close, trap clunked open, sudden. Drop stretched swift, snap clean as branch break. Body still against rope sway, gentle in breeze whispering. Buried quick in St. George's churchyard. Earth turned spade quiet over grave shallow, while Bess, legend's mare, faded to fields green somewhere. Grazing, peaceful, clover sweet. Turpin's ghost lingers light on lanes moonlit. A rustle in leaves, autumn gold. Reminder how one man's gallop can echo through tales tall. Crime's his. Purses lightened quiet. Homes eased empty. Lives touched by fear, fleeting. Wove into romance, soft. Rogue more than thief in memory's weave. England slept safer post his swing. Roads patrolled lantern lit, but songs keep him riding eternal. Spurs jingling faint. Let us pause here along the hedgerow's hush, as dew settles blade soft on grass. Dick's hoof-beats fade to quiet, but more roads beckon in the dark. In the part ahead, we cross to Scotland's wild glens, where Sawney Bean and his clan supped on shadows deep in caves salt-lashed. For now, feel the earth's steady breath beneath, wind's caress mild on cheek, drifting easy to sleep's welcoming arms. To ease further into the night's fold, recall Hempstead's lanes winding gentle, cottages smoke-curling chimney-wise, children barefoot splashing puddles rain-filled. Dick's shop hum, cleavers thunk rhythmic, customers chatter low over cuts wrapped neat, wedded walks, Eleanor's hand warm in his, paths orchard shaded where bees droned lazy bloom to bloom, poach nights, snares checked dawn dim, rabbits warm-furred twitching last, dawn's pink touching horizon flat, smuggle runs, boats beaching tide out, barrels shouldered grunting to carts waiting, laughter muffled wave wash, house breaks, doors jimmy soft click, candles held cupped hand-shielding flame flicker, drawers eased silk-lined yielding trinkets glint, highway calls, pistols oiled smooth cock, powder horns stoppered horn, masks tied ear behind with ribbon silk, Tom's last, inn's rush-strewn floor slick blood dark, shots echo plaster crack, Dick's leap sill scrape to night swallowing, alone rides moors' purple hush, wind moaning gate hinge like, Bess's snort cloud breath winter, York dash myth, miles blurring hedge past, inn's lights smear golden, Bess's sides heave bellows deep, York towers greet fog wreathed, raids thrill, coaches halt wheel lock gravel, passengers gasps pearl clutch, your money or life voice velvet edged, spoils gleam, guineas thumb flick spin, watches tick pocket deep, shared fireside with tales embellish, ballads birth, printers presses ink smeared clunk, sheets hawked cry hoarse, verses memorized ale quaff, wounds throb, caves chill seep bone deep, rags blood stiff bind, fever dreams horse gallop endless, York's inn guise, as Palmer smiles landlord wide, bowls stew ladle steam, guests yarns unwind evening long, arrests chill, irons bite wrist raw, Carts sway rope-bound to castle looming gray. Trials wait. Courts air wool musty. Witnesses' oaths, Bible kiss. Dick's denials eloquent pause punctuated. Verdicts hush. Juries nod grave. Gavels echo chamber filling. Gallows path. Crowds press, breath close. Children's fingers point wide eye. Chaplain's comforts murmur soothe. Drops end, ropes bite neck bruise. World tilt, sudden black. Crowds sigh collective, wave, recede. Burials peace. Soil damp, clod, thud. Crosses plain, mark mound fresh. Church bells toll vesper soft. Legacies thread. Roads now carriage smooth. Tales bedtime soft for little ears. Turpin's ride eternal in mind's eye clear. Sleep now with lane's lullaby. Hooves distant dream tread. Blanket heavy, warm as earth's own. More whispers wait, but rest claims gentle first. Breath slowing, tide even. And the velvet night unfolds petals slow. Stars winking, conspirator eye. Think of Essex fens mist-veiled. Reeds whisper knee-high. Wildfowl wing, south arrow true. Eleanor's hearth post gone. Embers stir ash gray. Memories quilt-stitched fond. Tom's grave green over, wildflowers nod bee visit. Bess's fields. Oats sway, breeze rustle. Tail swish, fly away. Broadsheets, yellow faded attic dust. Woodcuts smile, rogue charm. Caves echo. Drips measure time, cavern deep. Wounds heal, scar silver. York's towers, stone silent watch. Streets, cobble echo, empty. Inn's yard, rain-pooled, reflect sky mood. Constable's boots print mud soil. Cells dark. Straw prick skin itch. Rats scurry paw pad soft. Court's benches, oak warm seat. Inks quill scratch record eternal. Crowds' faces lantern etch. Sighs blend fog rise. Ropes sway pendulum mild. Body still wind caress. Graves moss creep tender green. Roots twine bone deep. Ballads hum tavern low. Fiddles bow sigh minor. Choruses lift heart light. All paths curve eventual to hush. Rogues to rhyme faded. Nights to dawn's promise pale. Drift deep, listener kind, till next tale tugs soft as the hoofbeats of Dick. Turpin's mare fade into the misty lanes of England's quiet night. Let us wander northward now, across borders green and rolling, to the wild glens of Scotland, where heather blooms purple under skies heavy with rain. Here, in the rugged coasts of Galloway, where the sea crashes soft against cliffs, sheer and caves, yawn dark like secrets long kept. A man named Alexander Bean drew breath sometime in the late 1400s, in the flat fields of East Lothian, where winds whispered through barley swaying gold. Known as Sawney to those who crossed his path brief, he came from simple stock, father's hands calloused from tanning hides that stretched, taut on frames wooden, the air thick with the scent of oak bark and flesh curing slow. Young Sawney worked those trades at first, pegging skins in sheds, dim where flies buzzed lazy around hooks rusted. But the pull of the wild called stronger than any labor steady. By his teens, he slipped the traces of village life, roaming moors where peat hags swallowed unwary feet, and mists rolled in like blankets soft from the Solway Firth's gray waters. Imagine him then, tall and lean with hair matted red as fox fur, eyes sharp as flint struck under brows low, wandering paths that wound from farmsteads clustered, tight to the sea's edge where gulls wheeled white against, clouds piled cotton. in a hamlet near Edinburgh's shadow. He met her, Black Agnes Douglas, a woman whispered, witch in taverns where ale foamed mugs, pewter, her skin pale as milk curdled, hair tangled black as ravenwing plucked. She carried curses soft on her tongue, or so the tales say, turning milk sour in pails fresh and cows lowing restless in byres thatch-roofed. Sawney saw kin in her darkness, and together they turned from the world's hard edges, slipping west like smoke from a dying fire. No wedding bells rang in chapels stone-cooled. Instead, vows murmured low under oaks ancient, branches creaking like old bones in wind sighing. They sought a lair far from eyes prying. Benane Cave, a gash in the cliffs of South Ayrshire, its mouth hidden by boulders moss-draped and tides that lapped hungry at low water, stretching inward a mile deep, where echoes dripped steady from ceilings vaulted wet. Life bloomed strange in that hollow womb of stone. No fields to till, no flocks to tend, only the road that snaked along the coast, carrying travelers weary on ponies sure-footed, or coaches creaking under loads wool-bound. Sawney and Agnes raised a brood fierce, 8 sons born in the cave's chill, their cries muffled by waves rumbling distant, 6 daughters following, small hands clutching kelp-wrapped dolls fashioned from bones picked clean. The children grew wild as brambles, naked at first in the damp air that clung like dew heavy, learning to fish with lines gut-strung in pools, tidal where crabs scuttled sideways blind, but hunger gnawed deeper than salt wind off the Irish Sea. One night, moon thin as sickle edge, Sawney ventured out alone, club fashioned from driftwood knotted heavy in hand-gloved earth. A lone peddler trudged the path, pack slung back bowed, whistling tunes faint of home fires warm. The blow fell swift, skull cracking soft as eggshell under stone, body dragged back through surf foaming cold, waves erasing the trail like a dream half remembered. In the cave's heart, where fire flickered low from peat dug deep and seaweed dried to crackle, they feasted first on that flesh pale, salted like pork haunch in barrels oak hooped, smoked over drifts of kelp burning blue flame soft. Agnes taught the ways, limbs portioned knife-sharp on slabs slate flat, blood caught in bowls wooden too, thickened stews bubbling slow with roots, foraged from glens fern-choked. Sons learned the hunt, daughters the cure, hides tanned rough for cloaks patched, bones whittled to needles that stitched seams crude. No waste touched the tide, scraps tossed to crabs that pinched eager in pools mirror still at ebb. The clan swelled then, incest's quiet weave binding tight, sons with sisters, daughters with fathers, grandsons and granddaughters, tumbling in litters that filled the cave with small forms, wriggling like eels in nets cast wide. By the year's slow turn, 48 souls huddled there, 18 grandsons with beards sprouting coarse, 14 granddaughters with eyes wild as the gales that howled entrance way, all fed on the road's unwitting gifts. Ambush became rhythm gentle as tides pull. Gangs formed in shadows, dusk painted. Sons and grandsons, slipping out as sun dipped horizon gold. Clubs wrapped cloth to muffle swing, knives tucked belts leather stiff. Couples courting under hawthorns blooming white fell first. A young pair from Ayr, laughter cut short by bludgeons thudding quiet, dragged to the cave where waves masked the splash. Merchants next, packs bursting cloth dyed bright and spices sharp-scented, throats slit ear to ear, with blades wetted on whetstone sea-smoothed. Coaches rare but rich. A family bound for Glasgow. Wheels mired mud after rain soft. Met with rocks rolled from cliffs above. Tumbling crash to scatter limbs broken. Bodies hauled inward on sleds woven willow. Stripped bare in torchlight. Flickering orange on walls limed white by spray. Flesh hung racks to drain slow. Drops plinking poolward like rain on leaves autumn fallen. Pies baked then. Crusts flaky from flour-ground hand-mill stone, filled with cuts minced fine and onions wild. Blood puddings, simmered pots, iron black. Oats swelling thick as porridge hearth-warmed. Years blurred in that dim world. Over 2 decades the tales whisper. From the 1500s early, when King James III rode hunts through glens deer-haunted. Villages along the coast grew thin. Hamlets like Ballantrae. Roofs thatch sagging under gales winter lashed. Spoke of kin vanished. A smith gone to market with hammer slung. Never home for supper's broth. A girl with basket berries blue. Skipped along lanes primrose-lined. Her whistle fading to wind's sigh. Rewards posted boards weathered. Crowns gold for word of the goblins that haunted the way. But fear sealed lips tighter than wax on letters sealed. The clan grew bold in plenty. Children playing tag through tunnels salt-crusted. Eels smoked for treats chewy, while elders dozed on beds heather-stuffed. Dreams of roads endless unpeopled. Fate turned on a summer eve soft. When sun lingered long painting cliffs rose pink. A newlywed pair rode sturdy nags from Kilmarnock fair. Bride in gown linen fresh. Groom with purse heavy from sails wool fleeced. The clan struck as dusk, bruised the sky purple. Suns leaping from gorse thickets yellow. Clubs whistling air still. The groom fought fierce, sword drawn scabbard leather, felling two with thrusts gut deep, blood warm on bracken crushed. Bride spurred her mount foam-flecked, reins clutched white-knuckled, galloping lanes moon-silvered to Glenluce's lights twinkling distant. Word flew swift as raven wing. Constables roused from beds feather down, lanterns lit wick-trimmed, horns blown deep-throated to rally the watch. King James VI, hearing tales by hearth royal where logs oak snapped merry, sent force grim. 400 soldiers from Edinburgh's barracks stone, muskets primed powder black, hounds baying packs tight-leashed, torches flaring pitch-dipped. They scoured coasts dawn to dusk, boots sucking peat bog soft, eyes scanning caves where tides gnawed relentless. At low water, when sea pulled back skirt-like to bare the floor slick with weed green, they spied it. Benane's maw, strewn bones picked white by gulls greedy. Pickle jars, clay-sealed bulging flesh pale, limbs stacked like cordwood birch bundled. The clan huddled deep. Women clutching young with arms fierce. Men clubs raised desperate, but numbers crushed like wave on rock. Dragged out chains rattling faint over surf roar. They blinked light harsh after years shade-bound, faces gaunt as winter branch. No trial graced those shades, just as swift as axfall. To Edinburgh they marched, bound wrists raw on ponies plodding, through villages hushed where folk peered door-crack narrow. At the toll-booth's yard, cobbles damp from rain night-fallen, the end came public. Men first, sawney at 4, beard matted salt gray, limbs hacked joint by joint with axes keen. Screams swallowed crowds' murmur low like sea distant. Blood pooled ankle-deep, red as heather bloom crushed, while stumps bled slow to straw-strewn thick. Women followed to flames piled high, faggots oak dry crackling orange, skirts linen catching quick to billow smoke acrid. Agnes last, eyes black as pitch unburned, tied stake iron to stand tall, fire-licking feet bare till silence claimed her sigh final. Clan ended there, young spared perhaps to workhouses dim, but tales say all fed the pyre's hunger vast. Benane sleeps now, cave's mouth choked weed tangled, tides washing clean what lingered, Scotland's glens green over, heather nodding bee-drone summer, roads safe for carts rumbling wool-laden, Sawney's shadow lingers soft in whispers, fireside, where grandparents hush, children close with yarns of cave-dwellers pale, feasts unnatural under stone's cold roof. Legend or truth, his clan reminds how isolation weaves threads dark in hearts once common, turning kin to shadows that feed on the light. Let us rest here in the glen's gentle fold, as rain patters leaf soft on moss. Sawney's cave echoes fade to hush, but more wilds call in the weave. In the part ahead, we cross ocean's blue to India's dusty roads, where the thuggies strangled secrets with scarves silk soft under moons full. For now, feel the heather's cushion beneath, wind's lullaby mild on ear, drifting deep to sleep's peaceful glen. To wander slower in the twilight's hush, recall East Lothian's fields flat, barley whispering knee-high in breeze salted. Young Sawney's hands dip vat tan oak deep, hides bubble slow. Agnes's meet, tavern's corner dim, candles gutter wax drip, her laugh low as cat purr shadow. Cave's first steps, entrance narrow squeeze, shoulder brush wet, inner chambers widen echo lost. Pools gleam, fish silver dart, broods raise, sons wrestle floor pebble smooth, daughters braid hair kelp strand, all fed milk goat warm at first. First kills drag, body bump rock moss, surf chill ankle numb, caves fire welcome glow peat blue, feasts right, knives carve deliberate, salt sprinkle grain fine from pouch's horn, pies cool slab to slice steam rise, ambush patterns, dusk waits gorse crouch spine ache, signals whistle bird true, clubs swing arc silent, victims variety, peddlers pack fruit bruised spill, couples rings gold finger slip, coaches trunks brass lock pry, halls return, sleds groan load heavy tide push, bones boil broth clear skim fat yellow, village woes, ballantrays in hush post loss, mugs ale stand untouched foam flat, rewards nailed post splinter wood, couples flight, bride's spurs flesh gouge mount flee, groom's last stand blade flash moon catch, blood trail fox sniff, hunt's scour, soldier's boots print sand damp, hound's nose low seaweed tangle, torches bob hill shadow, discovery's gasp, bones stack thigh high gleam white, jars pickle open reek meat turn, clan huddle whimper child, marches plod, chains clink pony pace, villages line silent stare, Edinburgh's gates creak iron welcome grim, execution's yard, axes wet spark strike, stumps cauterize iron hot sizzle, crowd's breath hold collective fog, flames dance, faggots whoosh air draw, skirts curl flame edge, Agnes's gaze heaven fixed till smoke veil, caves after, tides reclaim bone scatter, weeds creep tender green, gulls nest ledge cool, legacies weave, glens as paths now walker safe, Tales bedtime soft scare lull. Sawney's name wind whisper caution. Isolation's lesson. Hearths shared warm outshine caves cold alone. Sleep with Glen's rhythm. Rain's patter cradle even. Dreams heather-scented free. And the night settles deeper. Stars peak cloud fringe shy. Think of Solway's firth gleam seal slick. Boats rock buoy gentle wave kiss. Suns' games. Tag, tunnel, echo, laugh, bounce. Eels, spear point sharp thrill. Daughters' songs. Lilts, low, kelp dry. Words, Gaelic, soft as mist roll. Kills is quiet. Clubs, thud, dream muffle. Drags, surf wash, erase. Pies' share. Crust flake, mouth crisp. Fillings, savory, chew slow. Losses grieve. Mothers wail hearth muffle. Searches lantern sweep vain. Escapes dash. Horses gallop thunderheart. Miles blur thorn scratch. Troops camp. Tents, canvas, flap, wind tease. Fires spark maple sweet. Captures bind. Ropes hemp bite wrist raw. Drags cave mud cling. Toll booths chill. Cells straw prick sleep restless. Echoes drip measure dread. Axes fall. Limbs drop thud meat soft. Blood's iron tang air thick. Pyres' roar. Heat face flush distant. Ash swirl wind carry free. Graves unmarked. Earth turn quick clod. Crosses plain fade rain lick. Ballads strum. Lutes string pluck minor. Verses clan curse rhyme. Roads bloom. Carts wheel smooth trade flow. Villages mend kin new. All shadows stretch eventual to dawn's light pale. Clans to fable gentle. Caves to echo empty. Rest full, listener dear. Till next Glen whispers as the silk soft shadows of Sawney's cave dissolve into the gentle mist of ancient glens. Let us draw our long journey to a close, wandering back through the quiet threads of time where these notorious souls once walked their crooked paths. We have drifted together through medieval mists and beyond, from the salt-sprayed waves of outlaws bold to the hidden horrors of hearts turned dark. Each tale a whisper to ease the mind toward sleep's soft embrace. Tonight, in this final hour, we weave them all once more, like stars reflected calm on a still pond, recalling their echoes without haste, letting the words settle slow as fallen leaves on autumn ground. Breathe deep, feel the weight of your blanket heavy and warm, and let these closing stories carry you home to rest, where history's shadows hold no sway. Begin with Eustace the monk, that rogue of the 12th and 13th centuries, born near Boulogne's rocky shores, where waves lapped gray against cliffs green. A noble's son turned avenger after his father's quiet murder. He shed monk's robes, simple wool, for a pirate's cloak, black as night. In the English Channel's fog-shrouded arms, his ships slipped like ghosts, sails billowing white to raid merchants heavy with wool and wine. Hired by kings, then betrayed by grudges old, he ferried princes across swells churning, burned mills to ash under moons pale, and tricked foes with mists summoned sly. Or so the legends hum low. His end came swift at Sandwich, blade falling clean as his head rolled to the sea's gentle claim, leaving the waters calm once more. Echoes of his laughter riding tides faint. From those waves we floated to Gilles de Rais, the 15th century knight of France's Loire valleys, where rivers wound lazy through fields golden, and castles stood sentinel stone. A boy orphaned young, Raised on tales of glory in the 100 Years' War's endless pull, he rode at Joan's side, her standard bright in Orleans' rain-slick streets, charging bridges creaking, and fields wheat-trampled to victory's cry. Knighted by her hand soft, martial young under Charles's crown, he poured gold into plays grand and chapels' choirs pure, but shadows crept in alchemy's failed glow, turning splendor to horror in towers high and still. Children lured from villages thatch huddled, boys with baskets empty, girls by streams apple-scented, met ends cruel in chambers muffled, blades whispering throat close, bodies to flames crackling low or pits lime hissing. Trial's words broke him gentle, confession flowing tear-slow, and on Nantes' scaffold meadow grassed, rope snapped taut under skies cloud-soft, his repentance a final breath to heaven's hush. Eastward then, over Carpathian pines sighing wind low, to Vlad the Impaler of 15th century Wallachia, born in Sigashora's hilltop fortress, where stars pricked cold above. Son of the dragon, pledged young to Ottoman silks gilded but chains tight, he returned fire-hearted to claim a throne, blood-soaked, father slain in church flagstone pooled, boyars feasted. Easter rich then marched to stakes oak sharp on Poenari's spring fields green, bodies swaying breeze, caressed like warnings, carved in agony, slow. Laws etched fair for peasants plow bent, but foes met forests thorned. 20,000 points ringing Targovishte's trap, Turks blinded by rot's sweet hum under suns haze-baked, betrayed by brother Radu silk-sworn. He fell in Snagov's bramble tangle, head piked to Sultan's campfire lit, legacy a shield of fear that held borders firm, whispers of his dining amid the pierced lingering tavern soft, across oceans turquoise and trade winds warm, to black Bart Roberts of 18th century Wales, born in Hempstead's pebble-shore cottages, where gorse bloomed yellow under Irish seas murmur gray. A slaver's mate turned pirate swift off Guinea's mangroves fringed. He commanded the royal fortune black-tarred, coat crimson-laced gold, under Jolly Roger grinning skull sly. Codes iron gentle ruled his crews scarred. No women to stir, lights dim at 8, prayers Methodist before raids dawn-misted, prizes flowed easy, Dutch Guineamen sugar white, French snows wine-corked, convoys indigo baled, slavers sunk bubbles rising to deny the trade he loathed. Ogle's swallow closed the trap at Cape Lopez palm-shaded, grape shot whirring chest open, body canvas wrapped to depths fish silver. 400 sails his brief reigns tally, legend tea-sipping in tropics heat soft, to England's lanes, hedgerow-lined and moon-silvered, where Dick Turpin spurred in 18th century Essex mists, village, born to butcher's cleaver thunk, and hearth stew simmering, wed young to Eleanor apple-cheeked. He poached rabbits snare-set, then smuggled gin, barrel-rolled under nights star-pricked. Housebreaks, crowbar silent, yielded spoons, silver glint, but highways called true. Stand and deliver, velvet edged on Great North Road coaches lantern sway, with Tom King musket leveled, purses guinea spilled on turf damp, spoils fire-shared rabbit roast, Tom's fall ink rush bloodied, York's mad dash myth blurred on Bess Bay gated, fame broadsheet woodcut rogue gallant, arrest rain-puddled at Bell Inn alias Palmer, trials proofs bowl-chased damning, gallows knavesmire leaden-skied snapped clean, ghost hoof-tapping eternal on roads carriage smooth, north to Scotland's glens, heather purple and rain-patterned. Sawney bean of 16th-century Galloway coasts, East Lothian tanner's son, wandering moors, peat hag soft, with Agnes witch whispered, cave-bound at Benane tide-lapped. They birthed clans incest-woven, sons club-wielding, daughters knife-curing, feasts on Rhodes gifts, peddlers pack spilled, couples hawthorn cut, coaches rock-tumbled, flesh salted barrel-hooped, pies crust-flaky onion wild, bones crab-picked in pools mirror still, villages thinned, kin vanished, till newlyweds escape spurred, rally kingly. Soldiers, hound-bayed, stormed low tide, jars pickle-bulged, and stacks cordwood white revealed. Toll-booth yard axes joint-hacked, pyre's faggot crackling claimed all. Cave weed choked now, tales fireside hushed caution soft. And so these threads entwine, from Eustace's sea tricks fog-wreathed, to Sawney's cave drips echo lost, a tapestry of medieval shadows and later ghouls, each born of grudge or greed, war's pull or want's bite. Gilles' nightly fall blade whispered, Vlad's stakes breeze swayed, Bart's sails wind ally, Turpin's spurs mud flash, Bean's clubs dusk silent, all touched lives quiet, villages emptied hearth cold, roads wary lantern lit, seas trade safe once more, yet in their dark flickers of time's light. Guardians against foes vast, justices bent fair for folk bent low, legends softening edges cruel to rogues half-heroic. History's river carries them all to sea's hush, where grudges dissolve wave gentle, leaving us to dream of paths straighter, hearts warmer under stars steady. As our 2 hours draw to twilight's end, dear listener, let these tales settle like dust on shelves oak-polished, books closed soft on stories spent. From Mindlepic's quiet corner, thank you for drifting with me, through boring histories, sleepy streams. May your nights stay calm, your dreams free of shadows long. If peace found you here like gentle, subscribe for more whispers unwinding. Comment your own tale of rest below. Now, close your eyes full, feel the earth's cradle rock beneath, and sleep deep, where morning waits patient with light gold and new. To linger one last breath in the lull, revisit each echo soft. Eustace's channel, fog roll, ships ghost slip, Gilles' Loire bend pebble skip, Jones' charge rain brave, Vlad's pines wind sigh, stakes point jut, Bart's tropics palm arch, prizes hold glint, Turpin's lanes hedge whisper, Bess's gallop blur, Sawney's glens heather nod, cave drip measure, threads cross gentle, seas link monk to pirate, war's knight to impaler, Rhodes hymen to cave clan, all under moon's sickle-thin watching, crimes wait, thousands touched indirect, trades choked coin lost, families child void, kingdoms throne shifted. Yet time greens over, fields sow anew, waters flow unscarred, legends gift, caution's bedtime soft, heroes flawed in fables spun lute low. No more parts wait, this close seals the weave, history's blanket tucked chin close. Breathe out slow, let eyelids heavy as summer air claim you, heartbeat tied even with the world's quiet pulse. Good night, wanderer of whispers. Sleep comes now, faithful as dawn's promise pale, and in the velvet hush final, stars wheel compass true overhead, winds die to zephyr kiss leaf tip, caves empty, echo free, seas glass mirror calm, lanes dew pearl gleam, glens mist veil lift. Souls staked sway no more, blades sheathed rust soft, clubs driftwood worn, ropes fray hemp loose, clans scattered windseed, fleets anchor deep silt, thrones cushion fade, hearth's embers stir ash warm, all fades, petals slow to soils return gentle, names wind whisper faint as gorse sigh. Rest eternal, listener true, journey done, dream bound, as the final whispers of these shadowed tales fade into the quiet night, like embers settling soft in a hearth long cooled. We reach the end of our gentle drift through history's forgotten corners, from the fog-wreathed waves where Eustace danced with destiny, to the stake-lined forests of Vlad's fierce guard, and the cave-deep secrets of Sawney's clan. Each story a thread in the vast, sleepy tapestry of the past has carried us slow and steady toward this peaceful close. You've wandered with me, dear listener, through medieval mists and beyond, letting the words wrap around you like a blanket woven from time itself, easing the weight of the day into dreams undisturbed. Thank you for joining Mindleapic on this 2-hour journey into the boring beauty of notorious lives, where the notorious become not monsters, but mere echoes of a world wilder than our own. If these tales lulled you toward sleep, or sparked a quiet wonder, please like this video with a gentle tap, subscribe for more calm explorations of history's hidden paths, and leave a comment below, sharing your favorite shadowy figure or the way you unwind at day's end. Your thoughts keep our corner of whispers alive. Now, as the stars wheel slow overhead and the world's breath deepens even, let go of the roads we've roamed, the seas we've sailed, the glens we've glimpsed. Close your eyes, feel the earth's steady cradle beneath you, and surrender to rest, where no crimes linger, only the soft promise of tomorrow's light. Good night from Mindleapic. Sleep well, wanderer. Sweet dreams await.